Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a Bridge to a Better Life discussion. I'm your host, Marcia Trajano, and with me is our program leader and founder, Jussara Korngold. Hi, Jussara. So good to have you with us.
Hello,
It's-
Marcia. Hello, everyone.
Hello. And if you are with us here today, and perhaps this is the first time you are with us in this program, this podcast, please note that our program, the Psychology and Spirituality Weekly Talks, are based on the works by Joanna de Angelis, and it is a program to offer all of us, you, Jussara, myself, a space to perhaps discuss, expand, right? Confront, compare, correlate, especially spirituality concepts now with this psychological lens so that this discussion, this conversation can bring you insights and tips for all of us to lead a better life. Jussara Korngold and I will spend our time together today talking about how pervasive anxiety is and how introspection, how spiritual growth are key. They're essential steps toward mitigating the state of anxiety, which simply means a state of apprehension, a state of tension, a state of, a sense of uneasiness. And they all correlate with our instinct of survival, right? And we, as animal, human beings that have that animal trajectory, it stems from our anticipation of something is not quite right, and we may sense danger. Therefore, there's all those symptoms that correlate to anxiety. Joanna de Angelis insights provide a roadmap, right, Josara, for anyone seeking to overcome anxiety. And she emphasizes that healing is possible. And she says this in a beautiful way that whenever we work toward integrating those spiritual as well as psychological aspects of the self, it will empower us and will encourage us to take a different and more active role in our own healing journey. And she says that because she understands that anxiety actually can be the catalyst for profound personal and spiritual development. I love it. But before we start a conversation, Josara, I just wanted to take a moment to thank and recognize the organizations that are sponsored this program. TV Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spiritus Federation, and the International Spiritus Council, as well as AMI Brazil. And for you who is here with us today, please hit subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you want to know more about psychology, about spiritism, and many other aspects in the same vein, right? Check us out. You can find more information at www.spiritus.us. I love to hear from you. Please use the chat window. Give us your questions, your remarks, your feedback. We'd love to incorporate those into today or future episodes. But Jusada, I was thinking, right? Athletes, right, as a subgroup of people, they, it, in order to perform under, not perform, but perform under extreme pressures, they must have a strong mental health, right? And let's think about it. A scenario here in my mind. Um, Game time or 2 minutes before game time, and Josiah, you're the trainer, and you start to notice that a certain athlete is a little off, right? And you start to really pay attention. And in turn, the person, the athlete, I don't know who they are, a soccer player, a basketball player, whatever, right? And And this soccer player is like, oh, ah, my scholarship depends on this, or my contract depends on that. There's a lot of pressure in addition to the pressure of just playing well. And you, as a, I'm fiction here, Jussara, but you as a trainer, you start to look and you perceive perhaps that this person may be going through some increased heart rate, they're breathing faster. Oh yeah, you can see their shirt and it's sweaty, right? They're even trembling. Well, Jussara, fictional trainer, Jussara is not alone. If we quote the National Collegiate Athletic Association in NCAA, found that in fact 85% of athletic trainers do believe anxiety disorders are an issue that is very common between athletes. And if I pause to think about it, I say this is actually perhaps a normal expected behavior, right? It is a response mechanism common to any competitive environment, work, home, between siblings, between executives, between athletes. And in fact, Joanna discusses how anxiety and fear are often intertwine and they create this cycle of emotional and mental distress. Let's shift a little bit, Josiah. Give me just another moment because I'm on the roll here. If we shift, right, our thoughts towards statistics, we say that anxiety disorders actually affect 1/3 of adolescents today, according to the Center for Disease Control, right, and Prevention, so the CDC. So, wow, athletes, the CDC calls to us as parents to this problem. But the good thing is the NCAA, they have a toolbox, right? And the toolbox is quite simple. They say for athletes, they recommend the practice of relaxation, self control, mindfulness. We're not going to go into that because I want to ask you, Jussara, are the spiritual toolbox any different? Well, can we even talk about anxiety and what Joanna de Angelis tell us about it? Can you can you explore all there is because there's so much that is available to us, right?
You brought us so many important information, Marcia, and I think that when we are talking about anxiety, we have to have a broader view because, like you said, it may be more present or noticed, in certain events, in a certain category of people, like you were mentioning, athletes and everyone that is going to be confronting any kind of uh, situation where they even can deal with the public competition. And so, I mean, it is not different from a child that has to present, something before the class, when they say before the class, or a pastor, like you said, or a speaker, or someone that is going to go through, for a job interview. But as Joanna de Angelis classifies and make it sure for us to understand, is that there what is called a natural anxiety. And natural anxiety, I would say that everyone, not just the percentage that you showed, but I would
Yeah,
dare say that at a certain point in our lives, 100% of the people are going to go through anxiety, even if you live in isolation, but you have to go and fend for your water. You don't know what you're going to find in the way before you reach the fountain, or whatever. So she says that it's this natural anxiety that comes from, normal expectations around the existential phenomena. It
yeah,
represents a health picture. In a way, she
yeah,
said says that it is key to survival, because this is what makes us more careful about things. And especially, she mentions in her writings that from the beginning of the civilization, that was key, not knowing what am I going to find when I will go, hunt for food. I had to be in a state of complete alert. That is, the same thing as we in natural anxiety. So to have the idea that we should
Uh-huh.
rid ourselves completely from anxiety would be almost, uh, being a psychopath, because you have to be completely oblivious
Of the situation. But I have to tell you this. Can I give you an example? It's a personal example. I'm laughing because Jussara, you are uh, describing me, right? So for those of you who do not know me personally, I've been born in Brazil, right, Jussara? But I've been in the United States for many decades, in fact. But it took me almost 10 years before I went back to Brazil to visit my family for different reasons. Um, and I remember, Josada, I went from uh, a very safe environment where I was living, right here in the US, and I went straight to Rio to the subway. And somebody was supposed to meet me there. Somebody I did not know, who was the mother of somebody I knew, and she was meet me there in the subway to go on to do whatever I needed to do. And it's so funny; it never escaped me the moment so long ago. I am there, and I don't remember. I went to Rio as a visitor, right? And I'm in the subway, and you can picture me just looking at this map, completely, like you said, oblivious to any danger that may be there. Why? Because I was in a different cultural environment, right? And I look and I look, and time passes by, and this woman comes to me and she says, "You are Marcia, right?" I said, "Yes, I am. How did you know?" She said, "Well, no one stands so peacefully, so oblivious to anything in a subway in Rio. Most people, and just look, they're always looking around. They are paying attention to the surroundings because anybody can come and snatch your purse and you say goodbye." So I just thought it was funny what you said. It triggered this memory of how important it is to be alert, right? And yes, it's fear based, right? But it's something that we can manage. But go on. I'm sorry to
In this case, in your case, ignorance was bliss, right?
yes, yes, always good.
I was laughing inside as well, because I feel so anxious when I have to take the subways, because
Yes,
not because of what I was thinking other people could do to me, but really because of the noise, so many people, and not
yes.
understanding the map sometimes, and um, if I'm going to go into the right direction, whatever. But yeah, you see this. Natural anxiety that she says that it's even what triggers the mode fight or flight, right?
Yes.
It's
Hmm.
very important. So let's not think that anxiety cannot play a good role in our lives. But now we have the other side, as she
Yeah.
presents, which is the pathological state of anxiety, the
Yeah.
one that is going to be really affecting us in our organism directly in our physical body, is like sweating. I may have cardiac arrhythmia. I
Yeah.
can have restlessness, fear, and you know not breathing well. And the thing is, what is the difference between the natural anxiety and the pathological anxiety? Is
Hmm.
the one, like we say, it comes related to certain circumstances. And
Yeah.
the other one, it can happen for nothing. All of a sudden you start thinking about something, and it already triggers you a response, a physiological, emotional response that is going to be damaging to you. And of course, it's going to occur with a certain frequency. So
Yeah.
this is how, what is the toolbox? The toolbox, of course, before anything else, is the recommendation to look for professional assistance.
Yes.
So we will find that in Spiritism. We will find that very clear in Joanna de Angelis, emphasizing the need for, having a clear picture of what is going on with you. If this is related to a certain circumstances, like,
Mhm.
a death in a family, the loss of a job, or things that can, temporarily affect us so much, or if it is really becoming something that is
Yeah.
going to be ingrained in us. So, in this sense, first and foremost, go to the doctor and the psychiatrist, in the sense of, perhaps first we are going to look for our general practitioner, our
Yeah.
GP, because we may have this physical response, and we will be curious to know if there is a physical correlation. But then we will be for sure be referred to go to a psychiatrist and to therapy, and sometimes we will need medication because there will be an imbalance in our neurochemicals. And but from the spiritual perspective, if I could actually resume and make it really short,
Yeah.
everything that represents this toolbox is faith. It's
Yeah.
the word
Yeah.
faith. It's faith in
Yeah.
yourself and faith in life, faith in God, faith in the spirit. So it's faith. Because she recommends meditation, she recommends prayer, she recommends looking for literature and music that can calm you down, for good
Uh-huh.
works, engaging some community work for to help people. But at the end of all of those things, we will find that faith is what is needed. And in the example that you said about the athlete, okay,
Yeah.
this anxious moment before a performance,
Yeah.
to have faith in yourself. I
Yeah.
trained, I did everything that I could, so now I have to be able to believe in me.
Can I give another example of that, just to further enhance that idea of, yes, we're talking about faith in that incredible, uninterrupted divine mercy in us as the creature, right? And our Father is with us. We're never abandoned. But the other type of faith, like you said, from the athlete, I just recall Michael Phelps in his biography. This is, oh my goodness, 2 Olympics ago, 3 Olympics, when he was going for those maximum number of medals in swimming, right? And I don't remember the year anymore, quite frankly. But he in that biography he talks about the fact that in one of the races, right, the swimming trial, he goes, and as he dives in his super spiffy, everything is ultra technology, right? To help with the speed. He's, and Michael Phelps, I don't know if you know him, but he's an amazing swimmer, American swimmer. But when he does that, his goggles flips and he gets water in his eyes. And right, and he was actually doing the butterfly, which is that right, that type of swimming that you have to throw your arms around, and he cannot see. Two choices: one, stop, the right, actually the 3F, the third F, fight, flight, or freeze, right? He could freeze, and do nothing. He could be angry and just be, take away the goggle, or he could just keep going, which is, oh my goodness, a fourth F, right? Have faith. He had faith in all the aspects of his ability to swim in his practice. And he did that because he used to count. So he got the water and he started to just keep going as if nothing changed. And he counted how many times he would get up and go to the next stroke, and he won. But I found it so amazing, Josara, that idea of faith in its multiple expressions, right? Faith in the divine, but faith in yourself. Faith that you're here as your best, the best of who you are. You cannot be better than what you are today. You are it. But go ahead, Josara. We're talking about some tools in the spiritual toolbox. So one is faith, and I think you had other aspects of the idea of faith. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and when she also recommends something that can kind of liberate us from the moment to bring us peace. So of course,
Mhm.
meditation, yoga, like we said, and prayer, a soothing music, or a music that relaxes you, that not
Yeah,
necessarily is a classical music. It can be rock
yeah,
and roll, who knows?
yeah.
Whatever works
Whatever, yeah, whatever
for
works for
you.
you. Yeah,
If you're in a mood where you are going to be singing and dancing, or, relaxing, venting, putting all of this is that it inside of you out. And I mean, it's so important for us to learn those tools. Sometimes it's just the breathing. You can start, like, in breathing in and out in a certain pace, which
yeah,
is going to help you recover yourself as well. When your heart is racing, and you have to do something, like you say. In certain situations, I cannot be in any of the three F's, right? Fight,
yeah,
flight, or freeze. I have to perform.
yeah,
Oh, and I have to deliver, right? And she says, of course, today, because of the contemporary society, it is one of the um, most common psychological disturbance that we are going to find. But I think that the more we understand, like we said at the beginning,
yeah,
from all of this perspective, that is part of who we are, that is part of a natural response, even a response of survival, the more we will start accepting, okay, of course I have to be anxious in the situation.
yeah,
I'm going to meet, you know, uh, my fiance's parents for the first time. How can you not,
Oh,
feel
I remember that day.
right? Or you were hired to teach in a university, and all the ones that hired you are going to be there for your first class. I mean, it requires a tremendous power of self-control for you not to feel anxious about it.
Yeah,
So it is normal. What it is not normal is for us to feel this situation in the trivial things of life, or to
yeah,
continue feeling that. It's interesting because just this week I was talking to a friend that he always also gives talks in relation to spiritism, to several, organizations,
mhm,
and national events. And he says, oh, I always feel nervous. I said, I do too. And it's
yeah.
been 30 years, but I still feel this anxiety, because also it reflects that, the responsibility
The
that
commitment, right?
the commitment
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
have, and go there and really represent something that is not you.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
remember as well, Jussara, sorry to interrupt, but I remember as well, not so long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, this is in my professional realm, meeting the new head of an entire organization within the company that I work for. And this man is quite powerful. And now he moved on to an even more powerful position within the organization. And we're talking, and there's several people, but at that moment, it was just me and him. And I don't know what I asked him, but I remember his response. And he said, "Oh, I am so anxious. You have no idea. I am no longer sleeping at night since I took on just a week or two ago this new job, new role, and the tension is so clear in every day of my life right now." And that puzzled me because he is brilliant, right? He is fantastic, powerful, educated, intelligent, all of it. And he was in the right role. It did not diminish his reaction, which is that inner workings, as you said, of your friend. And despite the experience, despite the knowledge, despite all of it, I would say, I think you mentioned that 100% of us will undergo some sort of moments of fear that takes over. It's almost like we can't control, right? It controls us.
yes, exactly. And this is, why one thing that is also in the toolbox, which is important, is for us to focus on the present moment.
Yes.
Sometimes as well, this anticipation, right? How it's going to be, like, we said, meet the parents, right?
Yes. I love that.
And, or start a new job, and
Hmm.
and, and then nothing happens, right? But the level of emotional worry, the burden that we place ourselves,
Yeah.
it drains us so much. And this again is the lack of faith in you, in the situation. So and the thing is, when I'm so focused and worried about what is going to happen, I'm not paying attention to what is happening.
Yes.
And
Or why we're there, right? Why are we going through that specific moment in time? I think that mindfulness or being in the present moment
mhm,
um, really speaks to, again, in the idea of faith, that nothing happens if it's not meant to happen. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. And we, in our rational thinking, we try to understand, but why me and not Jussara? Just kidding here, right? Why am I having to go through this? Why is this opportunity, right, Jussara? Sometimes it's just a great opportunity, and we second guess based on all that we bring from past experiences instead of trusting that it's okay. Just be in the moment.
yes or no? Because you
Go
know
ahead.
I'm going to hear Marcia. The way
Yeah,
it's said is absolutely correct, but I'm going farther away.
go ahead.
Because I'm thinking that sometimes, you're absolutely right when you say, things that have to happen to us, they will happen.
Yeah,
But it's very important for us to realize that we are in control, and there are many
sure.
things that were not supposed to happen and that we have provoked.
Thank
So
you. Thank you for clarifying that.
yeah,
Appreciate that.
I
Yeah,
just wanted to clarify
yeah,
because otherwise, in the silly things that we do in life, and of course there will be consequences. We'll say, "Oh, this was because I
yeah,
needed to go through this." No, this is because you have created this situation
yeah,
that was not in your program, perhaps anticipated because of your tendencies, but
yes.
at the end of the day, they were not necessarily to come if you had not acted as you did. So it is important for us to know that. But even when we think about it, because we are humans, and we still met so many things, right, messing around and all of this. And I think it is not uncommon for us to find this, so those situations, silly ones, like you say, it's, I don't know, it's 20 degrees out, and you say, oh no, I'm not going to grab my coat,
Yeah.
Of course, maybe many times you or not, you will have a consequence of that, right?
Yes.
Or it's
Yes.
raining, yeah, but I don't like an umbrella, and then you just is soaking wet and do not expect any impact on your physical health after that. So, but yeah, once it happened, it happened, and we have to deal with that. But what it's saying here is, in a certain way, we are talking about spirituality, but it's about being rational.
Yes.
Like, again, let's bring the parents. What's the worst that can happen? They were expecting more, of course. We are always expecting more, right? But it doesn't mean that we are not going to be pleased with what we have, with what we receive. So this is one thing, being rational, the mindfulness here, and all the possibilities that we have of, focusing on the present, not being that much worried about what may happen,
Yeah.
being conscious about, all these unresolved emotional issues that we have. Is okay. I know I have that. I know that you know, I will be anxious in this situation. Who wouldn't? Right?
Yes.
I mean, I would
Yes.
say that it's completely abnormal if you're not. And
Uh-huh.
maybe you think too much of yourself. I don't know. Too much belief in yourself. But it's when we are going to be achieving this emotional balance, when we put all reason into place.
Yeah.
And going back again to the athletes, right? I
Mm-hmm.
trained and trained and trained, or the orator. I trained and trained. I wrote down everything that, the main things that I have to say. And there is no reason for me to not to deal with that. The thing is, there is this fear that they say that the greatest fear that humanity has is to face the public,
Yes.
right? To have to speak in public. It's even more, they say, that the fear of death
Yeah.
more present. So maybe, when you talk to yourself and say, what I fear is not my capability. What I'm anxious about is not about my capability of delivering the speech, of, uh, going for this interview, but it's the relationship we will have with others. There will be others in the picture, and there is, always the worry about how people are going to judge you, and the different, tastes
It's
and
such an egoic construct, the sphere,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yes, absolutely. So I think that this is one of the things that we have to think about, and the most important, like Joanna de Angelis says, and I mean, she's not alone in that. If we will are going to talk about the scholars in this area, they all are going to ask you to, to focus on something else, to look for something that is going to be bringing you peace and calm, and again, if it is a pathological state, even that is affecting, the neurochemicals, even medicine, if this is the case,
Yeah.
don't think you are alone.
Yes.
Before we come here to talk to you in this podcast, we kind of anxious because we prepare everything, but it, it's always hard because we have to give the right message.
Hmm.
And the message basically is do not feel afraid, or do not feel that you are uh, different just because you are having a response that is
Yes.
responsible for you to be living today.
Yes. I love it. So I wanted to maybe, for everyone who's here, try to capture what Joanna is bringing through you, Jussara, and as it relates to this topic, right? And I think she is quite brilliant because she defines anxiety, so this fear, right, as the manifestation of the conflict between the ego and the deeper self. So when you mentioned the idea, the sphere of public speaking, it just immediately brought me her words, right? But further, and I think it's important for all of us to walk out with this, that Joanna de Angelis views anxiety as this, oh, complex, right, multifaceted issue. And it's multifaceted because it it is born out a sense of disconnection, right? Disconnection between me as an individual and my spiritual essence and my material experience. And it's the tension between that who I am as this immortal spirit, right? This mortal soul, and my material life right now. And that not being connected with both is what creates in her words, right? In her thoughts, it creates that sense of anxiety. And so, because of it, she, in her what about how many books, Jusara, we counted as we're reading about this topic? 5, 6, 7 books. She, and it's going to be here in the description of this podcast, so you can reference that. But it's a number of books that she brings the topic of anxiety, right? So she keeps bringing up this link between the spiritual in psychological misalignment, right? So it's important because now we're not talking spiritual and physical, it's spiritual and emotional, psychological misalignment. And she brings some of the tools in her toolbox as a notion of self, just self discovery, faith, as you said, spiritual awareness, and emotional healing. And I'd love for all of us, Josada, to take the time, if you know someone or if you are curious and want to know more about anxiety, to just keep looking into the resources that is brought to you by Joanna de Angelis and many other scholars, like you said, Josada, because facing anxiety, when we do that through that lens of spiritual awareness, we can truly truly transform our experience into this pathway. And it's a pathway that we can translate into performance, athletic performance, or whatever type of performance, but most importantly to attain your peace and a sense of fulfillment. So with that, I wanted just to bring the fact that there's a book, and Josara, you're the one who brought me the attention to this book a while ago. But it's called Jonathan Haidt is the author, and the book's title is "The Anxious Generation: How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness." What is this book about? Well, it's his hypothesis that, and he says, right, that he connects this epidemic of teen mental illness that has hit many different countries, including the US, all at the same time. So the rise is being evidenced in many different statistics. And he started to investigate what happened. Why now? So it's a very interesting. As a scholar, he looked at statistic, what was going on in the world, and he found that childhood, right? So our children, our toddlers, our young children and pre-teens and teens, they really um, thrive when they explore it, through games, right? They explore through playful discovery, and through that, that's how it leads to their maturity and competency. So Jonathan Haidt says, well, right, that play-based childhood, that's he's coining the book, play-based childhood started to decline in the 1980s. And I keep thinking to myself, Jussara, that's when my children were born, that decade. No, but he says it's evident. And by 20 years later, right, or 30 years later, in the 2010s, he speaks to now the eradication of the play based childhood into the phone based childhood. So he says that the great rewiring, which is the title of the book, has interfered with the children's social and neurological development, and he says that it has covered everything, right? And it's terrible to say out loud, but it's so true. Sleep deprivation, right? We're talking about the blue light, sleep deprivation, attention deficit or attention fragmentation, addiction. How many of us are addicted? I heard the other day, Josara, that once the rite of passage of becoming an adult was, oh, I got a car and I can drive. Teenagers are actually saying, no, let me do later because I'm addicted to texting. And that's an interesting data point, right? But addiction, as well as a sense of loneliness, uh, social comparison. And I think what you pointed earlier today, uh, this mental image that I need to be perfect, right? I need to be better than everybody else. Therefore, anxiety is born out of this comparison. And he specifically, specifically explains that social media, in this case, provides or uh, leads to damaging girls more than boys. And on one point, he says anxiety for girls, and the data again um, says that, right? But for the boys, it's social isolation, and it's really terrible because societally speaking, this is the biggest impact. But what I'm thinking here is that Joanna, and I believe in her book, uh, correct me if I'm wrong, Family Constellation, she discusses how the family dynamics and how families bring up their children will contribute to the development of those anxious children and individuals. So she really emphasizes in that book the importance of being supportive, to be able to not only be supportive but bring the children with a spiritual education so that can mitigate anxiety. So what I'd like to bring for you before we I give back the mic to Josara is some tips that is given to us for parents and caregivers, right? So knowing that anxiety disorders affect 31, almost 32% of adolescents between 13 and 18 years old in the US today, which is a tip is pay attention to your child's feelings, right? Number one. Number two, it is let's stay calm. Let's when your child comes in super right anxious about a situation or event, just don't yourself become anxious as well. So be the rock in that relationship. Be the parent. Stay calm. Recognition comes in the forms of small praises and accomplishment, because anxiety many times is that idea of my my friend at school is much better than I am. And what is the standard? Well, the standard is individual, right? So let us as parents recognize doing well at your child's standard. If there is no lack of progress or even mistakes, let's pay attention to those. Let's not punish them. Let's understand what is causing your child to fail or to not progress as fast as you would expect. Be flexible, but try to provide structure, routine, discipline for your children. And during especially stressful periods, and we talked about being in front of of uh, your in-laws, right, for the first time, your future in-laws for the first time. But sometimes the pressure points can be for a child, first day of school, right, or first day of summer, or any other types of stressful situations. Let us be very careful to really pay attention, be attuned to that, and let us not as be as stringent as we would otherwise. And finally, plan. As a parent, you have this gift. Plan for any time you are facing with the transition. So if you moved to a different place of residence, does that impact how much time it takes to get to school? I don't know. Anytime there is a change in your environment, plan for that. But with that, I just wanted to say, Jussara, what else can we tell everyone who's here with us about this so important topic?
I think one thing that became very clear in what you said, Marcia, and just for us to sum up, this last part of the conversation, is that anxiety is not something that will find only in the adults. On the contrary, it starts in childhood for different
Yes,
reasons. We all talk about being bullied or all of those things. The milestones that a child has to go through. And I remember when my son was a baby, and all these mothers would come, telling me about milestones. Oh, he has to be crawling by 6 months, and then has to talk by, I don't know, or walking. And I mean, and the anxious parents will
yes,
impose that. We will begin forcing the child not to follow its natural way, because there is competition. My neighbor's baby is already doing that and mine is not. So anxiety starts in the childhood, and actually, to tell you the truth, it comes from previous existences, right? But so, like you said, paying attention to your child, to the different stages that the child is going to, then the preteen, teenagers, and even ourselves in adult life. So like we said, there are so
yeah,
many things and that can trigger this. But it doesn't mean that we have to go through that alone. We shouldn't. We
yeah,
should resort to family, to our community. If you have any kind of, faith, religion, any kind of spirituality, go for that as well. And on top of everything, don't uh, forget about the important resort that there is the medical field, and
yes.
look after professionals. But there is so much to talk about anxiety that we are going to be talking about it in a following podcast, so we
Yeah,
can continuing bring more interesting things that we can learn about that since we
Yes.
said it's part of our lives. So for
Yes.
now, don't be anxious about what we will bring next. We will be here and we'll be trying to enlighten all of us as much as we can.
Thank you. Thank you, Jussara. Thank you for being here with us today. I appreciate you and love to hear from you. As I mentioned earlier, maybe tell us about your experience or tell us any other aspect of this topic that you may feel that we did not touch upon, right? This will enlighten us to be more holistic about the topic, but also address the particular items that we may have just brushed through. It is only a few minutes that we're together, but I really appreciate it. And Jussara, I see you next time, and I see all of you next time as well. Thank you so long.